Morning, everybody. This definitely won't take an hour, but it is important. We have a short piece of your time just to talk about hazard spots. So, Fliss, can we just go through to the next slide?
Yeah.
So we're just going to step through why report hazards, what we need from you. Fliss is then going to just step through some examples of hazard spots and, in fact, how to go about reporting a hazard spot, which I have to be honest, for me, a few weeks ago was unclear. So I think we've had to do a little piece of work and tidy up around making this a little bit more obvious, even though the process and the system has been in place for a little while. So Fliss will step you through that just to refresh your memories. So yeah, move to the next slide, please. So why hazard spot? Well, I guess the first thing we need to say is, Soccertech UK is a diverse business. We have some high risk activities, whether it's geotechnical engineering and drilling, through to the nuclear environmental labs and our asbestos team. And then when you start to consider building and real estate, you might think that we are relatively low risk by comparison activity. But many of our staff visit site and all our staff come into the office at some point, and everybody within the division will be exposed on some level to some degree of risk in a work environment where accidents may happen. So this is the fundamental reason around hazard spotting. We're at work, we're exposed to some risk, albeit not the highest risk around the business. And we need to manage the extent of that risk and mitigation to make sure that everybody's safe at work. Liz, can you move on? So around 88% of accidents are down to some form of human error. Across, there's 420 people in the division, and each one of those will, during the course of their working day, come across something which they've either admitted to do or walked past and not reported, which creates a risk or a hazard of some description. So what we're asking for is to start to complete that data or compile that data. If I told you currently we have 1 or 2 hazard reports each month for a division of 420 people. I'm firmly of the belief we all see hazards most days, if not every day we're at work. And whilst I don't want to set about putting targets in for hazard spotting, I think we can all agree that 0 is in fact the entirely wrong number. How much it is above that, well, let's wait and see. But we can't walk into work and report no hazards because it's simply, that's a world we just don't live in, sadly. So if we can move to the next slide. So many of you will be familiar with Heinrich's risk pyramid. And the theory here is that 1 fatality would equate to around about, it's rounded up, it's about 298,000 unsafe acts or 600 near misses. And I guess the point here is that if we're not reporting any unsafe acts or hazards right at the bottom of this pyramid, what we're not doing is managing those risks out. And ultimately, we will end up with either a minor or serious or a fatality. So it's really, really important that we begin to look round our business and report hazards or near misses so that we can take the appropriate steps to ensure that we either train staff or we highlight something to our teams to ensure that we eradicate that risk or we manage that risk out. And I think a good recent example is the items you've seen recently around arrest equipment and fall equipment and harnesses. That came up as a conversation during our health and safety steering group. And we set about ensuring that we were in a safe place. And it even meant that we on a Friday, we were stopping a job on a Monday because we weren't 100% sure that the staff were both trained and using the appropriate equipment. As it was, the job went ahead and it went ahead in a safe manner. So we've got to be alert to these items and these issues around our business. We can only do that with everybody's help. And by that, I mean everybody using the system and the processes we've got in place to report where they see an unsafe act or a near miss. So I think we probably all understand why we need to do it. We now need to just, and that 0 is the wrong number. I think those are the two takeaways from these first few slides. So now I guess what is a hazard and how do we report it? So over to you, Fliss.
So we just Nick's flown through this second section, which is what we need from you, which is obviously, you know, we need you reporting, please, identifying those potential issues so that we can discuss them. So, you know, we have a strong leadership team within building and real estate. You know, we discuss health and safety constantly, but certainly on a monthly basis within the RMA. We're very lucky in this division that we've got ops directors who are all, you know, very proactive with health and safety and see it as a priority. So let's build on that and everybody sort of be proud to be in this division, because it's really good and it's got a good safety culture. So we need your support in order to capture what's happening on site, on the road, and in your offices. So yes, as Nick quite rightly says, we just thought we'd run through some examples, because it's not always clear. You know, some of us go into the office every day. When you go somewhere every day, you don't necessarily notice what's around you. It's a bit like when you're at home as well. That sort of clutter in the corner, or that, you know, it just becomes part of your everyday. Likewise, when you go out on site, you might not necessarily think something is an issue. So let's go through a few examples. So in the office, you might notice things like, I mean, the list is endless, but things like trailing cables. Trailing cables can lead to people tripping over, of course, but it can also lead, as you can see quite nicely from this photo, to a fire risk. Those cables are quite clearly going underneath that desk there, getting nice and warm, having someone put their feet all over them. You know, you can get yourself tangled up, or it can create a fire risk. This is a very important one, overloaded sockets. You know, we've all done this at some point. This picture here is you know, it's the ultimate, isn't it? You've got a double socket there inside a four-way, and it's just, you know, got fire risk written all over it. We just cannot have that. Four-way plugs are okay as long as they are managed properly, and it's really very important. And obviously, it all needs to be PATS tested. Another example, damaged electrical cords. You know, particularly with mobile phones, they get stuffed in our pockets, they get chucked into a bag. They can quite easily become frayed, and they are dangerous when they get to that point. And then obstructed fire routes, I decided to pop down because, you know, we have a nice ream of paper, and then someone else then puts something else next to it, and then a delivery bot next to that, and all of a sudden we've got quite a lot of combustible material, or just anything like chairs, ladders, etc., obstructing a fire route. And it might not seem like an issue when your normal day-to-day is going about, but were there to be a fire, were there to be a need for you to leave your building quickly, it can really cause an issue. So obstructed fire escape routes is a good one to always, you know, report and then do something about. Then on to site. You know, again, the list here is even longer than in the office. We could go on and on and on at what you could report, but you know, I think the people that do go out on site every day are well versed in what is acceptable and what isn't. We've got things such as unsafe ladders or scaffold. You know, you want to be looking for those stickers that are on the ladders that say that it's been inspected. You want to be, dynamically risk assessing the scaffold that you're about to traverse. Does it look safe? Has it been checked? Lack of traffic segregation. Lots of busy sites that you all go on to for various roles that you're all performing. If you feel like there is not a safe path for you to take through the site, you need to say. All it takes is for someone to be, going through the site. They want to get home. They're not looking properly. Perhaps somebody hasn't got high vis on. That can be a really serious thing. So that's a very serious one. Don't go across the site unless you're happy that the traffic segregation is not only in place but being controlled. So that's an important one. Then incorrect PPE. You might notice someone on site who's not wearing the correct PPE. That can be a sign of the site manager failing. So it's a good one to report to the site manager, and then to report as a hazard spot when you get back to your laptop or something within building real estate. And then I'd lastly put on here unsafe weather conditions. So we've seen, haven't we, recently over the last weekend, certain weather conditions can make sites unsafe. And if you feel as if the footing underground is not safe, then that's something that we need to know about, and also that you don't proceed with the site inspection. We've had a couple of incidents recently of people having incidents on sites due to bad footing. So that's an important one to know. So then how do you report it? You've noticed something, it's so important to share it, not because, we want to get somebody into trouble because they've let the office get a bit untidy, or there's some damaged equipment or anything like that. This is not the purpose of hazard reporting. As Nick said at the beginning of the webinar, we need to know so that we can ensure that you're all working in a safe environment, and to see whether or not there are any trends, not just within building and real estate, but across the whole business. It's so much easier to deal with things in a collective, and if we know about these incidents and these hazards, any issues, then it enables us to deal with it. But how do you report? So there's a couple of ways, and there's going to be some more ways as well, because Tina's going to be working her magic over the next weeks and months. But at the moment, if you're on your laptop, the best way to report a hazard is when your lovely Google Chrome or your Edge pops up, the Socotec intranet comes up first and foremost, doesn't it? Which we all love. But it's really important because it's there. And you will notice that right on the front screen is this wonderful little blue button. And all you need to do is click on that, and it will take you straight into the Microsoft form. That is the hazard spot and the incident reporting form and the accident reporting form. So they're all there. The other way you can do it is from your phone by scanning this QR code. And this QR code you will find in any of your offices, because there's a poster that should be up on your notice board wall. But we're well aware that, you might spot hazard, you want to do it straight away, but you're not in the office, you can't see the poster. So we're going to be getting some stickers that everybody can have either on their tablet, on their phone, or on the back of their ID card. And therefore, you've always got this QR code to hand to scan, and then you can do the report. So when you go into the report, it's very, very simple, particularly when it's a hazard spot. There's a bit more information needed for an incident or an accident. But when it's a hazard spot, you see this form pop up, and it's going to ask you for your details, of course. It's going to ask you for the location of the hazard, and it's going to ask you what you did. So what's nice about this is that you're not saying, I noticed some boxes near the fire exit door end. You're saying, I noticed some boxes near the fire exit door, and so I got a colleague to help me move them. And there it's done, it's dealt with. So you dealt with that hazard spot. It's absolutely all sorted, but you are reporting it through that it occurred, that it was an issue, so that your leadership team can know and start to notice whether or not this sort of thing is occurring in a particular location or in a particular area, etc. Photos are always good. So if you've got the means to take a photo of the issue, then that would be great. And then there's a section where you can put any further action that's needed. So you might have dealt with it, but you might feel that it needs some further action as well. And you can pop that in there too. So that's essentially it. When you hit submit, that form then gets fed through to me. And I will then discuss that with your leadership team, who is Nick, Wayne, Kevin, Stephen, Ryan, etc. And we all get to discuss these and to see whether or not we need to put in place any mitigation or anything in addition. Good.
Thanks, Fliss. Appreciate that. It's all very clear to me. And just to note that actually the hazard form, it doubles up as a near miss or an instant form.
Yeah.
So if there's something happens in front of you, it's another method of reporting. And as Fliss says, we're going to try and make that as accessible as possible. So you've all got the QR code now. We can share this deck, I guess, after the webinar as well. It's on your posters on the wall. We'll get some stickers out. I'm going to pop mine on the back of my ID card so I can then use my phone on it. And I've always got my ID card with me, so that kind of makes sense. So I will just wonder before we wrap up if there are any questions. Has anything come through, Tina?
Nothing has come through yet.
Okay. Well, I'm assuming that's all clear. So just to kind of give a final summary, we know the answer is not 0. So please report. You now know why, and you now know how to. And I think actually, for me, it was understanding the mechanisms to report. So Fliss will summarize the findings each month and pass those to each BU lead. Obviously, we'll act upon them as they come through, but it's important that you all have some feedback from the effort that you put in from this point forward. So that'll be coming back to your BU leads, and they can talk about it in your management team. So I guess it just thanks to Fliss and Tina this morning. Thanks to you guys for attending. And if we could start reporting hazard spots, that would be fantastic. So 0 is the wrong number. Let's see what we can achieve. Okay, thanks and good morning, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.